He was there, by the side of the road, small, fragile, trembling. A tiny chick, almost featherless, its bare body exposed to the cold wind and the indifference of the world. It breathed with difficulty, its chest rising and falling slowly, as if fighting just to keep existing. Cars rushed by too fast, kicking up dust, ignoring that little yellow speck lost in the gray vastness of the asphalt. But then, a car stopped. An elderly woman, her white hair framing a face marked by time and years of life, opened the door with a strange feeling in her heart. She walked slowly toward him, not knowing what she would find, and when she saw him, her eyes filled with tears. That tiny being seemed to be begging for help, without making a sound. "My God, what did they do to you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. With shaking hands, she picked the chick up with the utmost care as if holding a precious secret. She felt the faint warmth of his little body, almost fading between her fingers. Without a second thought, she wrapped him in a towel she had in the car and held him against her chest, trying to pass on a little life. As she drove back home, her heart was racing. The road felt longer than ever, and she could only think one thing. "Hold on, little one. I won't let you die." In that moment, without knowing it, she wasn't just saving a chick. She was rescuing a part of herself that time had forgotten. At home, Donna Lucia placed the little one on the kitchen table, still wrapped in the towel. He barely moved, only breathed slowly, as if every breath was an effort. She improvised a nest with a shoebox, an old cloth, and a lamp to warm the air. That little corner, once empty and silent, suddenly had a purpose. In the days that followed, she did everything she could. She woke up early, prepared a mix of cornmeal and warm water, fed the chick drop by drop. She talked to him all the time, as if trying to convince life itself to stay. "You're going to be okay, my love. You will." And he did get better. Little by little, his once dim eyes began to shine. But something puzzled Donna Lucia. His feathers never grew. Time passed, and the chick turned into an awkward, bald, different-looking chicken. Still, she thought he was beautiful. She named him Saul, son, because, she said, ever since he came into her home, everything seemed brighter, even the cloudy days. Sewell kept growing. He followed her around the house, pecked at her slippers jealously when someone got too close, and slept beside her bed like a loyal dog. Donna Lucia, who had lived alone for years, began to smile again. And as she cared for that featherless chicken, she realized that maybe he was the one taking care of her. Days turned into months, and Sewell's presence became part of her daily life. He accompanied her everywhere. When she swept the yard, he followed close behind, scratching the ground as if helping. When she sat down for coffee, he would lie quietly by her feet, watching her every move. Donna Lucia talked to him constantly, told him stories from her youth, about losses, about old joys. Sometimes she laughed alone at her own memories, and Sewell would tilt his head to the side as if he understood everything. Other times, when her heart ached and tears came without warning, he would climb into her lap, quiet, warming the silence with his presence. The neighbors found it curious. Some mocked her, saying it was a lonely old woman's thing. But Donna Lucia didn't care. She knew what she felt. That chicken, even without a single feather, was the most loyal friend she'd ever had. And Sewell seemed to understand everything. When the day broke, he ran to the window and waited for her to wake up. And when night fell, he only rested after seeing the light in her room go out. Between them there was an invisible bond, one that needed no words, a connection born from care, shared loneliness, and the silent gratitude that only hearts that have suffered can know. And deep down, maybe they both knew that unlikely love would one day be put to the test. It was a cold, quiet morning, quieter than usual. Sol noticed right away Donna Lucia hadn't gotten up, hadn't opened the window, hadn't called out her usual, "Good morning, my little son," that tired but warm smile lighting up her face. He waited for a while, pacing the yard. Then he went to her door and pecked gently, like he did every day. No answer. So he pecked harder. Still nothing. His heart, or whatever it is that animals feel when they sense something's wrong, seemed to race. Sol began to squawk loudly, desperately, pacing in circles, trying to get her attention. Then instinct took over, and he did the unthinkable. He slipped through the open gate and ran to the neighbor's house. He stopped on the porch, crying out even louder, flapping his short wings in panic. The man, puzzled, came out to see what was going on. The chicken, panting, turned back toward Donna Lucia's house, stopping at the door and looking back as if to say, "Come with me." The neighbor followed him. When he went inside, he found Donna Lucia collapsed on the living room floor, pale and weak. He called for help immediately. The ambulance arrived just in time. The doctor said that if they had been a few minutes later, it would have been too late. Days later, when she woke up in the hospital, the first thing she asked was, "And Sol, is he okay?" The neighbor smiled. "Yes, Donna Lucia. He's fine. He's the one who saved you." When she came back home, Sol ran to her, making sounds that seemed like pure relief, and she, with tears in her eyes, hugged him tightly, feeling the warmth of his body, the same warmth that had once saved a life. From then on, everyone in the neighborhood knew the story of the featherless chicken. The chicken that couldn't fly, but somehow taught the true meaning of love and loyalty. If this story touched your heart, share it, and tell us in the comments what you felt. Because sometimes the purest kind of love comes from wings that never learn to fly.